Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. This is the first topic which I'm going to start on my channel, which I'm going to start with on my channel. And this is a topic that deals with, or rather hypothetical situation, which I hope doesn't happen ever. So I'll introduce the topic in a short bit. What I'll be talking about today is military stats. I mean the statistical numbers in which India's and China's military deals with, and a subjective understanding of the topic. So what I want you all to know, when I say what subjective understanding, so my subjective understanding has been developed since last time I had around 6 months or so. Like I've been reading newspapers, I've been watching some international relations videos, and there's one more source which I would like to certainly mention herein is my unacademy educator Sanjay sir. So with him and with some of his courses that I do take, I have been developing this international relations and current affairs. So there's too much of his to put in, and thank you to him. So with that, I'll start. And first of all, in a minute or so, I'll give you the military stats about Indian Army and Chinese Army, and then I will be putting before you a short analysis about why India has an advantage in case a war breaks out in India and China. So first of all, I'll tell you about the numbers. When it comes about Indian Army personnel, I mean the ones who are on ground, it is about 12.3 lakhs, and in case of China it is 20.3 lakhs. So that is a huge gap, but when added with reserves it is not that huge. So when the reserves, a section with in Indian Army which reserves, I mean the ex-servicemen who are retired, and the other army which is a reserve sector. So when you consider them together, so Indian Army and Chinese Army are a little bit at par. So and then after that comes Air Force and PLA Air Force. Like I like to mention here in why PLA. So PLA is People's Liberation Army of China. China doesn't have its nation's army, rather a political party's army, which is PLA. So Indian Air Force has 2123, that is 2,123 aircrafts, and in case of China, that's around a huge whopping gap of 1,000 aircrafts, around 3,120. In case of Navy, the situation is same, and Indian Army is again humiliated by the numbers, which is 285 ships to China's PLA Navy's 777, that is 777 ships. In case of tanks, India does have an advantage. Indian Army has tanks of around 4,200, and in case of People Liberation's Army, it is 3,200. So in case of tanks, India does have an advantage. And one more sector which India does lack since I don't know how many years, that is our defense budget. India's defense budget is around 65.8 billion US dollars, and China's defense budget, herein I can see, is 178 billion dollars. So that's a huge gap in between, but let's hope that will be filled out in the coming years. And the last sector where the war should never come, that is the nuclear warheads. So when it comes down to nuclear warheads, India has around 150 nuclear warheads and China has 320. So that's almost double of India's. Let's hope the war never comes down to there. So that was it about the stats. Now let's come down to the subjective analysis of the topic, which I have been building since a lot of time. So first of all, Indian Army troops. So what Indian Army troops are? Indian Army troops are battle hardened. So let's say consider Indian Army's latest battle was in Kargil, and after that too, Indian Army does take various counter-insurgency operations, and there are also other operations like say for in POK sector. So Indian Army is constantly evolving and learning about how to deal with such cases. So Indian Army is a battle hardened army. Also comes in a fact wherein Indian Army respects and honors its soldiers. So like if we see in case of Galwan, there were around 20 martyrs. Like it's a not to use term now, martyrs is a wrong term to use. So 20 soldiers were killed by Chinese PLA army. So after that, what we saw was the soldiers were honored. Like for that matter, Colonel Santosh Babu, he was like honored, and other soldiers were also honored. In case of China, if our 20 soldiers were killed, then there should be at least one mortality. So we couldn't see any like any aspect wherein Chinese paid heeds to their army. So that was not seen. So that does make a psychological difference when it comes down to troops. And also is a fact wherein China's army is a politically owned army, so that there shall be a lack in sense of patriotism. And this also comes about in where they aren't even acknowledged. Okay, let's boil down to technology. So when it comes down to technology, yes, I'll agree that Indian technology is overpowered by Chinese technology. But I'd also like to mention the substandard version of Chinese as we know, and as Indians called it, Chinese mal hai. So this Chinese mal is really doubtful, that I'd like to mention. And as the world has roused against their technology, and after this COVID pandemic, what we are seeing is the world is rising against China. So what we shall see, the cat will run in the bushes. Okay, now when it comes down to experiences, India has a recent experience of Kargil war, which was fought in around, I'm sorry to mention that as a war, it was a conflict. So India had to fight a recent conflict which was in Kargil, which was around in 1998. But in case of Chinese, it was fought back in 1979 with Vietnam. And there too, Vietnam, with the help of United States of America's troops, gave them a bloody nose. So India's army does have recent positive experiences. I must add positive, because India gained its advantage in Kargil war. So, and that makes Indian army soldiers more practiced and hardened and experienced, and I must also mention stronger, because Chinese army's recent claims, like this one Gaga, which is around the world, about the recent Chinese army being sent in Tibetan sector. I'll introduce it with you to some images. And also the army is specialized for unwanted things, like, yeah, you should see them yourself. And now the next important factor when it comes down to wars is allies. So allies is also an important aspect when it boils down to a situation like war. So India has certainly made its stand clear. India has been choosing some powerful allies in the West, and also in the East, like I must not forget Japan and Australia. So with allies like France, United States, India is having defense pacts, and also India is talking about Quad, like Quad, the talks of Quad are on table after a decade or so. So with talks of Quad coming on table, India will certainly gain an advantage in case of alliances. Alliances, what I'm seeing, and partners are different, and alliances different. In case of China, we see really good alliances, I must say. Like I would like you to see them. Pakistan is better a vassal state of China. Like I must say that Pakistan is second China. Pakistan is not China's ally. So with that, all India will have to do is control defend its territorial borders out there in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. And after that, what India will have to do in case of a war is block the Malacca Strait. So if India manages to do that effectively, however irony it might sound to layman, India will often have an advantage and will be turning out to be a winner of this war. So like once you block Chinese economy, yeah, that's it. For Chinese economy, for Chinese, the economy is like as of water is to a fish. So I'll add in a scenario wherein Pakistan, China's all-weather friend, helps China. So what India could do is open up its front with POK. India could occupy POK. After that, India will be having a territorial advantage over CPEC. And after CPEC, China will know that the war is to its own doom, and Pakistan will probably suffer from a huge existential crisis than it is suffering as of now. So that was it for today. So if a war breaks out like this, you know why India would win. Thank you for that. Now I would like to ask you about what topics would you want me to take next videos on. For the next Saturday, I have a topic in my mind, and that I'm sure of. So after that, I would like to consider about your suggestions as well. Please make sure topics have credibility and are not about any shit that's happening around in Bollywood. Thank you. Like, share and subscribe at your will.